Hello everybody, and it's been lovely to be invited to come and speak with LDC this evening and to talk to you about Yo Comics. And I'm just sort of one third of Yo Comics, so I'll talk you through who we are and a little bit about it. And let me see, I've got lots of things on my screen telling me things are being recorded, so let's minimise those and then I can get started. Okay, so Yo Comics, I thought I would start off by just sort of telling you a little bit about who we are, why we are, what we are, and when and where we are. I thought I'd base it all around the W's for this presentation. And they sort of come up in no particular order as well. I'm just going to credit, and actually it's brilliant 'cause she's online this evening, I've just seen, but our brilliant images for Yo that we have made by Tor Freeman, they're just so amazing. We love them so much. And they're often sort of used and changed around by Lauren as well, or Deadly Knit Shade, as you might know her by. I've also just put onto here our website. So we do have a website, Yo Comics Fair. So we're pretty easy to find. If you type Yo Comics Fair into Google, you do actually get to us, which is great. Let's see, it's going to let me move on. There we go. Okay, so who are we? This is me, Helen Jones. If you can't see me on screen and you're just looking at my slides, I am a lecturer in primary education at UCL in London. And I'm also a PhD student at Goldsmiths University in South London, where I am studying, or I'm in my sixth year now of a part-time PhD into children's comic making, and particularly looking at sort of pedagogy around clubs as a third space for learning between home and school, and children's comic making processes and the pedagogy that can support with that. Um, so that's a little bit about me. Who else are we? So we are also Hannah Lee Miller. You're going to hear from her, I think, in a video coming up in a little bit. But she is one of my brilliant co-conspirers on Yo Comics. She's an animator, she's a comics maker, and she's also one of the brains behind a whole range of different comics fairs, such as South London Comics and Zine Fair, Goblin Market, and Brew Scene. So to Yo Comics, which is a comics fair for young people, I sort of bring that sort of educational side to it. Hannah brings the whole comics and comics fair side to it all. Our last co-conspirator on Yo Comics is the brilliant Lauren O'Farrell, or Deadly Knit Shade, as she sometimes goes by online. Again, another amazing comics maker. And she also co-runs Ink, which is London's queer comics fair. And she really runs all our social media for us. As I said, I bring the education side, Hannah brings the comics fair side, Lauren brings to Yo Comics the knowledge about how to get us out there through our social media. And she's been running a brilliant sort of lead up to our next comics fair. So I was going to say just a bit about what we are. We are Yo Comics. We are a comics fair for kids and by kids. We are going to be going into our second year of the event, which is on Sunday, the 22nd of March. So it's coming up in just under 2 weeks. And really, it's a sort of comics fair that is a free family event. It's aimed at all ages. We have a whole lot of different activities going on that I'll talk through in a little bit. But I thought I'd go into a bit about the rationale about why we decided to set up Yo Comics as a comics event, why we felt it was needed. So I got together with Hannah in 2024. We'd met through different comics networks and connections around South Norwood and Slizerth particularly before them. But we sort of got together in 2024 and started talking about how we could set up a comics fair that was particularly aimed at the ages of 7 to 14 years old. And we sort of had several rationales for that. So first of all, and particularly for Hannah, who was coming from the comics fair background, it was about setting up a safe all ages space, because one of the things that she'd noticed, I'd been noticing, was children coming to comics fairs with their parents. So, for example, coming to South London Comics and Zine Fair, we had a brilliant all ages reading room there. But sometimes when children were going in and looking around at the comics, not all the comics on display or available were ones that were necessary, or zines were necessarily ones that were suitable for children under the age of 18. They might have mature content. And obviously that's important and it needs to have that space and a platform, but it wasn't necessarily something for children. And sometimes you would hear parents sort of expressing that they weren't sure about it as a space. So one of the key things about setting up Yo Comics was to create that safe, all ages space for children, that everybody could come to this comic fair. And although it's aimed at 7 to 14-year-olds, we have 1-year-olds there, 2-year-olds, we have 80-year-olds there. You'll see a picture of that in a minute. But particularly thinking about building it around that age of children and their needs. And actually we find often that those children between the age of 7 and 14, under the age of 7, there's lots of activities for little children, which are cheap and easy to do. But once you get to the 7 and 14 age range, lots of activities for that age group after school clubs become expensive. They can be, expensive things, activities at the weekend. So again, trying to create something that was free for children to come along to, and also inclusive within that as well. The second sort of key rationale and driving force behind Yo Comics particularly came from my work and research in schools. So I ran a comics club for 5 years in a primary school. And each year, the Comics Club worked towards producing and creating collaborative comics that they made together in small groups. There's a picture, and that's my daughter selling her comics Catacombs, way back in I think about 2018 now. But they had a comics fair at the end, and it was always quite nerve-wracking. The children became nervous. Would people come? Would they want to see their work or buy their work? But actually, it ended up being a beautiful sort of community celebration around the school, in the school playground, where you'd find, younger siblings were coming, their parents were coming, the teachers are coming and buying comics from the children, and particularly the younger year groups. What was really interesting to see in the comics fairs that I was running in school was how many of the younger groups of children came to buy the comics, and then next year they were the ones coming to Comics Club. So it's creating that sort of sustainable comics community, creating that network of children who saw themselves as comic readers, as comic makers. And I think finally as well, giving children the platform to publish for each other. I think that's incredibly important. And we really do not get a chance very often to hear children's voices, children's ideas, their hopes and their desires for the future, their hopes and desires, and all the narratives they want to tell, whether they're sort of, it's going to be a narrative about catacombs, whether it's going to be a narrative about superheroes, whether it's going to be a narrative about school life, the stories that they want to tell and how they might sort of help children to interrogate and make sense of their world. So particularly important to us was really giving children that platform to express themselves. And I think that's what's one of the things that's unique about Yo Comics, is that whilst we invite professional comics makers, and people coming from the comics industry, we're also inviting young people to come and share their comics. And I'll sort of talk you through that when I go on to my next slides. So, what to expect if you come to Yo Comics? As we said, it's a free entry. It's a family-friendly event. We've got comics on sale by professional comics makers. I have got the lovely Lauren there selling one of her mini comics to a young audience, which is fantastic, within that too. We also have young people coming and joining us, and this year is the first time. Last year we had sort of groups coming, so local youth groups, local schools. This time we've built on that, and we've also got individual comic makers coming as well, who've applied to come and join us through our social media call outs. We also have charities and educational outreach. So there's been lots of brilliant people joining us around, working in charities. So Comics Youth, for example, are coming. They'll have a table. That's brilliant. And I was also going to say, publishers. We also have publishers coming. So we've got Flying Eye, who I may not have mentioned on my next slide. So just shout out to Flying Eye, who are brilliant. Um, we also have there as well workshops on the day. So we've got 5 workshops happening. We had 5 workshops last year. Last year, our workshops were free to come to and actually sold out probably within about 20 minutes. This year, we have had to put a small charge on our workshops because the cost of hiring the halls increased. So we've had to charge a small amount for workshops. We're keeping that to a minimum. It's £3 to attend a workshop. But again, those have already sold out. Our workshops sort of went again within probably a couple of days this time round. And crucially, it's volunteer led. So we are, it's not for profit. It's certainly not for profit. We run on a very tight margin of any money we make goes back straight into running the comics fair, and it's volunteer led as well. So everybody who comes along and helps out, it is all volunteers. So we run very much on again reaching out into the local community, into people who want some support and promote young people's engagement with comics to help us run this event. So I thought it'd be good to show a couple of photos of what it looks like and what to expect. And some of these photos, you can see some of our youngest visitors that we had and some of our oldest visitors we had. I can say that the old man in the photograph there, who's very nicely wearing a green t-shirt in the Yo comic sort of colours that we've got. That's my dad. So I can say, yes, he's 80 years old. He was there enjoying Yo Comics Fair just as much as some of the younger visitors were as well. Um, and there it is at Stanley Halls, which is a lovely space, actually. We've got lots of room and we spread out across different areas. So we've got the main hall where we have the comics fair event. We've got the areas where we have the workshops. And we've also got the area where we have the comics library, which I'll talk to you about in a minute in a few slides. So who have we got joining us? I'm hoping this is the whole list, but I'll need to check it. We do have Flying Eye books there. That's good. They are on the list. This is who we've got joining us. So we've got some brilliant, brilliant people joining. Tor Freeman, as I said, who's done our wonderful visuals as well. Mark Jackson, I think a particular shout out to, who really helped us with setting up the comics fair in the first place. He runs MacPow, that happens up in Macclesfield each year. And again, sort of quite an all ages focused comics fair, which I think goes on for the whole weekend. And he was really helpful in giving us guidance and ideas about setting up. We've got publishers joining us, Paper Cat's Bookshop joining us. We've also got the Cartoon Museum who are going to be coming. The British Library are going to be running a stall. And yeah, lots of really wonderful things, as well as workshops from Mark Jackson, Gary Norfield, Nigel of Maya Malda, Manga, Tanya Scott. Comics Youth are running a workshop for us as well as tabling, and Woodrow Phoenix is not tabling but running a fantastic workshop. And then the kids, we've got different groups coming us. So we're going to be joined by the Woodcraft folk. It'll be their second year. They were absolutely really keen to jump onto it and come as soon as we announced the second year. We've got Free We Grow coming and Fragile Tales, which are also groups. And then we've got some individual exhibitors as well. And they're ranging in age from about 6 years old, I think, is the youngest, to about 13, 14 years old. So it's a brilliant range of children who'll be there supported by their parents. Obviously, we don't have children there on their own. We've got to think very carefully around safeguarding, but children who will be able to table alongside adults and hopefully really feel part of the comics community and see themselves as comic makers and publishers. Okay, just a couple more photos there from last year, so you can sort of see the event it was very nerve-wracking last year. I don't know if anybody here in the meeting has also put on a comics fair. You don't know what to expect. You don't know who's going to come. The only indication we had last year that it was going to be popular was how quickly the workshop tickets sold out. But it was a really incredibly popular event. We think we probably had around 500 people on the day. We very foolishly forgot to count. So this year we're making sure we get a clicker and can get a clear idea of how many people join us. But the feedback we got as well, both from the venue, who collected, and talked to people across, collected data, talked to people across the day about about the fair, and the feedback we got from exhibitors was just really extremely positive about sort of what a wonderful event it had been. Um, and I have to say thank you to Tom Murphy as well, who wrote a really fantastic article for us, and interviewed lots of people about the day, which is brilliant. I've talked about sort of all the busy things going on, so we also make sure we've got quiet areas too, and a really popular place last year, you can see, here the children, and it's spilling out into the outdoor area, was our comics library. So this is a place where I bring my collection of comics and graphic novels, my colleague who works for National Literary Trust, Lucy Starbuck Braidley. She brings her collection of graphic novels, and together, I think we've probably got far too many comics and graphic novels for young people. But we can create a space with cushions and bean bags that children can relax. And adults as well. One of the things that we really found was it wasn't just the children. The children came in and picked up something to read. The parents were sort of standing around and then sort of, casually picked something up. And before you knew it, they'd been sat there for 20 minutes reading, and were completely absorbed. So I think that sort of brings me roughly to the end. I'll go back. I changed my slide order recently. So I'll just go back to this one again just to give you all the details. You can find us there at Stanley Arts. It's happening on the 22nd of March. It runs from 11 to 5 p.m. And as I said, it's for everybody. So if you've got a young person in your life who loves comics, please do bring them along. If you are an older person in life who still loves comics, come along. There is something for everybody. And you might come and meet the next generation of comics makers. Just before I finish, I wanted to sort of just mention to you as well, and I don't know whether this is self-publicity, but Hannah, my colleague at Yo, suggested I talked and mentioned about this as well. And this has again been a really collaborative piece of work with Lucy. You might know her from Comics Boom web podcast. If you don't know Comics Boom podcast, please listen to it. It's all about comics and education, but there's brilliant interviews with, children's comic makers, people working in education, so many different things that you can listen to within that podcast. And we have just done a Yo Comics podcast with her on Comics Boom as well. But as I said, my background is in education, but particularly really I'm just excited about thinking about how we can use comics within education. So me and Lucy have been working together over the past year on this book, Comics in a Classroom. Some of the experiences from Yo are in there. Some of the brilliant people who have been supporting or working with us at Yo are also as case studies in this book. So that's just something to introduce you to if you do work in education and want to know more about how you can use comics in the classroom, or vice versa. You're somebody who works in comics and is interested in finding out actually how you might run comics workshops or use comics within education. You can see some of the chapters there and the things that we cover. And I'm just going to say very, very quick, because I think it's my time to finish. One thing I have missed out is I was thinking about the wonderful Josh from Megaphone Comics, who also comes and runs beautiful interactive activities on the day at Yo Comics. I have got some beautiful photos of them and I've not got it here, but he'll be coming again, and he has got an interactive comics mega mural that you can get involved with, and he's also going to be bringing what is going to be possibly the biggest comic book of all time, which again is going to be a collaborative piece. So I think I hopefully not talk too fast, but I think that is my 20 minutes.
So, hi everyone, I'm Yu-Ching, and I'm an illustrator who also makes comics and visual narratives. I am based in Cambridge when I'm in the UK, and I'm also based in Taiwan, where I grew up. And here are my website, and email, and Instagram if you would like to see more of my works. And I'm very happy to be at the team of LD Comics. So at the moment, I am helping with video editing for every Global Monthly and some visuals ideation. And I'm also looking to sharing LD Comics work to the comics creators in Taiwan and hopefully the other way around too. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I would like to share two of my recent works with everyone. The first one on the left-hand side, called The Wall and the Uncharted Land, is a short form comics, which is completely wordless. And I self-published it at the first self-published it at LD Comics Digital Comics Fair last year. It's a story about the character's mental block, or some might take it as a creative block from the story. I currently don't run an online shop for selling my like physical copies of my work, but if you're interested, you can get a digital copy through the QR code right there. And the other one on the right-hand side, A Sleigh No One Knows, is a graphic novel project that I am currently still working on, in progress. And I'm very fortunate to have it shortlisted in the first Graphic Novel Awards 2025. Last year just happened. And I actually just realized that QR code over there for this one doesn't work. So I am just going to pop the link into the chat if you would like to find out more about this project, and maybe keep following my progress, because it's still a very long way for me to go. So here you go. And I think that will be everything from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can you see me now? I'm going to start straight away because I know we've got a lot of people to get through. I'm Elspeth Penny. I write as H.J. Blake, and I had Tips and Tricks for Girls in Trouble, which is a graphic memoir in collage style, in the LDC Comics 15th birthday online comics fair. I also write for theatre, audio drama, I've written for TV, and I'm a creative lead on various university projects, and University of Bristol mostly. And I'm also training as an integrative counsellor. So next slide, please. And so at LDC, what I see my job as, and I think the others have agreed, which is that I'm going to do some mentorship, and that's for comic creators, writing guidance. Being a writer, coming from a writing side, I think that that would be my angle, and creative coaching. And coaching also is something that I do outside of LD Comics, and I'm offering it to the other LDC team members, so that that's my contribution. I've already started doing that, and that's an honour, I would say. And general advisor, because I've run an arts organisation, I run a creative company, and arts and health facilitation and funded project experience into the pie. So that's me.
Lovely, thank you. Bruna.
Hi, I'm Italian, but I moved to the UK in 2008, and I've been working as an animator since. I have a mixed media style that is a bit at the intersection of different disciplines, from photography to live footage, paintings, and drawings. And I applied this mixed media approach to my graphic novels. Next slide, please. I'm an author of published and published author of graphic novels in Italian in Italy and in the UK. And I'm interested in trying and understand how political and social changes have affected the life of individuals, their values, and their future. Next slide. At the moment, I'm focusing more on intimate content, and my interest is in merging poetic texts with images and illustration. And for LDC, I will be mainly looking after setting up an anthology of work, but I will also use my motion graphic skills and animation to promote anything that is around the LDC brand, like the logo or trailers and social media content. And this.
Lovely, thank you.
Hiya, everyone. I'm Fionnuala Doran, and I will be looking after the accounts for LDC. I'm a graphic novelist, and I also teach illustration at the University of Edinburgh and the Edinburgh College of Art. Um, my published my first graphic novel in 2016 about it's kind of an fiction about the life of Roger Casement, one of the heroes of the Irish kind of independence movement. I've done like small projects since then, about kind of mix of Irish history and personal history. You can find my work on the links there as well. Next slide, please. And at the minute, I'm working on trying to develop a graphic novel about obsessive compulsive disorder, and not just about kind of my own experience of having it more, but kind of also exploring it as a neurological, psychological phenomena and also kind of how it's depicted. Um, so the slide comes up, you'll see I've got some drawings of Monk from the TV series Monk because I've been obsessed with that since it started its poster campaign back in 2002. I'll wait for it to come back up again. Um, so yeah, if anyone has any insights about that or their own personal experience, I find it really funny to accumulate different people's experiences of intrusive thoughts because some of them it's when people compare their experience of OCD. Some people are really irritated by how you know other people's intrusive thoughts don't bother them, but your own intrusive thoughts bother you quite a bit, which is it's an interesting phenomena. But yeah, that's me, and I'll be looking after the accounts for LDC properly, which I will be an adventure. Oh
Brilliant.
yeah, of OCD rather than Monk, yeah. If you want to compare your experiences of watching Monk, that's also could be quite fun.
So we're going on to Elika now. Elika, thanks for
Do you want me to go? I can't see the slides anymore.
No, the slides seem to have disappeared. Lou, are you there?
I can start.
I think Lou's probably. I think maybe Lou's internet's gone because I can't find Lou, and Lou has the slides.
Okay, I'll do it off the top of my head. Hello everyone. My name is Elika. I am a comic artist, an illustrator, graphic designer, and a marketing person. I joined LDC to help with the social media. But as I have experience in marketing, I've also been working on the marketing side of things. The social media landscape at the moment, as we all know, is constantly changing. So I've been working with the team to identify areas where we can, as a community, improve our visibility and therefore the visibility of comics and comic artists, while also prioritizing the inclusive ethos that LDC has always held. There we go. Thank you very much. Obviously, it's a process, but we've started with a gentle rebrand of the LDC Comics logo, and just given the social media graphics a bit of a colourful boost. Next slide, please. So this is some of my work. I publish currently everything I make to Substack. The link is there. It's all free to read if you want to. I make a mix of different things, but I find that my work tends to always revolve around food somehow. It's definitely my favourite subject. And the seeing what happens when you get a group of people around a dinner table. I think it's a really interesting place to find connections and unveil secrets. And then this last one here, it says work in progress, Migraine Zine. I actually finished it at the weekend, and that's now available to read as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Jana?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jana Knight, and I make comics, zines, imaginary friends and countries. And I also show others how to do the same through workshops, classes, and even comics walks in the city or in nature. And I've authored some graphic novels, self-published ones. One's called My Story and one's called My Country. But recently, as you can see on the picture on the left, my comics have been depicting challenges of a difficult problem, seeing a moose in Sweden, where I'm currently based. So I've been trying to spot a moose in the wild and kind of making comics about that. Next slide, please. So here we get to see a bit more about that and a few more examples. So on the top left, you see What About Moose, which was the original kind of starting point, where I could not find the moose at all in the wild in Swedish landscape. So I made some mooseless landscapes. And then I decided, well, if I can't spot one, I'm just going to become one. So the newspaper on the right, called Being Moose, I call it Moose Paper. It kind of details the journey of me becoming a moose. Since I couldn't find one, I just became one. And that followed by a series of other zines, all mostly on the moosey topic also, including one revolving around an actual, life crisis when I did see a moose, titled Am I Moose? But this one at the bottom here is showing actually, there's a TV show in Sweden following moose migration in April and May. So everybody's watching moose migration. And there are cameras in the wild and you can see animals crossing the river. And so this zine is about the meese, I call them meese because it's funny, discovering that they're being filmed and kind of what happens, if the moose discovers that he's being filmed and he's on national TV. So there's a whole series of these zines, and you can find a lot more on my website, which is here called Moose on the Loose, or mooseontheloose.se. And I will be on LD Comics website team, so looking after the website. And yeah, really happy to be here. And if you want to check out a bit more moosiness, feel free, have a look on Instagram or on the site. And that's me.
Lovely, thank you. Moi?
Hi, I'm Moi. Sorry, I'm still laughing about moose paper. Thanks, Jana. So I'm Moi. So I'll be looking after LDC's in-person events. So hopefully still be keeping the format of comic creators speaking about their work, but also introducing some social events as well for people to gather. Can we have the next one, please, Lou? And just a bit about me, I published my first comic online through the LDC Fair last year, so I'm not really a regular creator and sharer. It's more fits and starts. A lot of my practice is actually analog, so enjoy a lot of watercolor and ink, lots of collage, that kind of thing. And other work I do get some commissions. So I work as an artist and facilitator, mainly in health and care and social justice. So usually using visual thinking and supporting people to help the interactions and conversations work better through visual processes and things like that. And also doing some commissions as well, where I would do some illustrations for events and projects. So a bit more there on my website if you want to have a look, and my Instagram handle as well. And if anyone has any ideas, especially about speakers and formats for in-person gatherings, then yeah, let me know. That'd be great.
Lovely, thank you. So now we're going on to Hannah's video, is that right? Let's remove the spotlight. I think we've got one more coming up, which is video form. Just waiting for that one to load, and then we can watch.
It's because sorry, I've tried to unmute.
Okay.
So I'll start sharing again. My computer sounds like it's going to take off. That's the trouble.
Oh, really?
Hang on. I can share screen again. And here we go. Okay. Slideshow. Cut slide.
Hi, my name's Hannah Lee Miller. I'm one of LDC's volunteers working on the administration in the background. I'm also a comics creator, and I'm very passionate about comics. I make my own mini comics. One's about serious issues like my father's dementia, and one's more light-hearted about pigeons and their day-to-day. I also I've recently started creating comic fairs, co-creating with some amazing people and big teams to bring comics to people in markets. So we have Yo Comics coming on the 22nd of March, which is very soon. And then we have South London Comic and Zine Fair coming back for the 19th of July, which is very exciting, all at Stanley Arts, which is in Norwood Junction, 15 minutes from London Bridge. Also, in my day job, I'm an animation producer working on kids' TV, mainly cartoons. And when I find the time in between all that, I do my own creative work, from collaging to ceramics to gouache and sketching, sketching. Yeah, sorry I can't be there tonight, but we have a lovely evening all the same. Thanks very much. Bye. Hi.
Whoa, so lovely.
Do you want to go back to Fanula's?
You what, sorry?
Just going back to Fanula's, that's the one you didn't see.
Did we not see it? Okay.
Oh, yes, you just like get an idea of
Oh, nice.
visually what I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
Any suggestions for that Venn diagram? Also very appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It's interesting, the circles actually with the OCD, because I did a comic about OCD once that used circles, and so did Ian Williams. There's something about the circles that you know, they're containers. You put things inside a circle. It's got very OCD mentality.
It's very sorted. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the little bit of crossover between OCD and obsessive compulsive personality disorder is this need to like some shape sorting is a thing. And I can't really figure out why it's connected to the rest of the intrusive thoughts and stuff, but it just kind of is.
Very, very interesting. Excellent. Well, I'm so happy to have this lovely new team. It's really exciting. It's so cool to have this fresh blood come in. And yeah, you're all having some great comments, so do read. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Thank you for sharing. what you're all about.
Lou did ask me to just include something of context background. So that's just some past titles, but I don't really want to talk about those. It gets confusing. I do pop up in too many different arenas. So there's adult graphic novels there. There's the Manga Shakespeare series. There's quite a lot of work with manga. Wider outreach into book publishing, I guess. But yeah, moving swiftly on. Yep. So I'm going to talk about my new graphic novel, which is, I'm calling it all ages. Marketing people seem to be against that phrase now, but I do definitely believe that anybody aged 8 and up who's, smart will get into it. It's written to many different levels, but that's the spread of the cover. So front and back and spine. And they went into the shops in retail February the 19th, but I kickstarted it last year, May to June last year. 256 pages, full color. And we'll see a bit inside it in a bit, but I wanted to give you some context to what I'm up to with it. What I'm calling delicious sources. Basically where it's come from, some of the inspiration behind it is to do with the earliest days of comics. And trying to go back to where it all began and things no one's followed through with as much. It was really wide open back then. And these are 2 excellent books I'd recommend to anyone. Just about the origins really of comic strip, which is, academics like to argue about what came first and who came first and all that, but I'm not really concerned too much about that. It's just spotting when certain features we call comics first came up. So here, from 1883, not sequential yet, they're separate illustration images, but we do have both captions and speech balloons going on there quite clearly. So I would call that a comic, even though it's a set of cartoons, really. Here, already by 1842, this is sequential. And even has a dream sequence in it. So yeah, some different illustrative techniques being explored. Now this one's interesting to me. Brazilian piece of work. Now this is near as damn it kind of a Rupert Bear, with the text underneath for those of old enough to remember Rupert Bear annuals. But I love the drawing here as well, pencil drawing. I saw this well into when I was doing my thing, but my stuff is basically pencil. So I was inspired to see this, and also from, wider cultures than just America or Europe. And then, yeah, some of the things I would point out as early experimentation. So here, a kind of life story of a working horse, which is pretty grim, but done like horse brasses, if people know that you'd see pinned up in a stable. So they're using the format, and there's a reference there actually. I don't know if people can see my cursor, but at the bottom of the first page, reference to Fuseli's Nightmare with the horse on the chest there. But just playing with the format really. It's more loosey-goosey than just strictly frames on a page. And here the use of music annotation as part of the storytelling, which I think is really different and interesting. And these are all fairly early examples from long ago. Major explosion of this kind of activity was in America and in the newspapers. So again, this is a great book. This is an enormous book. The Sunday newspapers of a magazine called The World, which I believe was from San Francisco. I will try and slow down a bit. I know I'm gabbling my words. And another great book, which is enormous because the newspapers were huge broadsheets. And I like this phrase, gleeful anarchy, at the dawn of the comic strip, American comic strip there. But I guess this is kind of what they're talking about. Crazy Quilt by Frank King, who went on to be more famous for Gasoline Alley, which is a newspaper strip that still runs today. the characters grow up and have children and move on, you know, and it works in real time, the newspaper strip. But obviously he's long dead. But this is a strip he did before that, and you can see there's about 7 different storylines going on there, short kind of gag storylines, almost like a bedroom quilt. And I just love the kind of looseness of it. Probably my favorite newspaper strip. Certainly the first year of it was much more experimental than we're used to seeing. Almost akin to, if people know Native American art, the kind of art Native Americans would paint on blankets. And some of the iconography is in there too. But I particularly love, and you'll see this reflected in my work when we get to that, the kind of soft color and the willingness to have, you know, stormy clouds and stuff like that, pastoral scenes or just weather and things like that, atmospherics, I would say. So that's White Boy in Death Valley. It became much more ordinary after about the first year, and I don't know if that was syndicate pressure or what, but to have that syndicated in newspapers seems extraordinary to me. And here's an old cover, something from 1902. And just to say that everything old is new again, because lo and behold, 2026, I'm actually using that. Yeah, I've actually cobbled that background out of copyright into, you know, to give that old time feel immediately to the book I'm presenting, which is Roma the Wolf Boy. There he is. So it's about a boy putatively brought up by animals, no human parents, but we first see him in a traveling circus set in the late Victorian era. Here's a tribute to Henry Lawson, Ferdinand the Bull, for anybody that knows that stuff, but it's using a famous fly piece he did in early editions. This is a loose pastiche of that, but it's the circus coming to town, the posters to excite the children. Circus parade, try and have all the fun of the circus inclusive in that, as well as the cast of characters, the clowns, the ringmaster, the acrobats, and so on. And I particularly chose a countryside setting for this. We Victoriana and Victorian set material nearly always is the city, the big city, smoky London sort of thing, and Jack the Ripper and all that sort of stuff. And I wanted to show there was a lot more we hardly ever see. So this is all set in the countryside. And yeah, showing country life, country people, country fashions, how all that would be, because it's much less seen even in our TV drama and our films. Later books, if I get to them, you know, the Victorian age happened all around the world. So the other books will go to Egypt, to America, where, of course, what we think of as cowboys, that's still the Victorian age. All of that kind of thing is what I want to introduce. A bit like Tintin, you know, in terms of being able to go around the world to have your adventures. But we're still in for this book's in the circus and things like circus sideshows, a bit of chicanery that goes on. Some of the scenes are much more intense than others. This one I had to do in 2-page spreads, so it's intensive. Harking back to the influence of the earlier comics, so things like this where you're merging bodies of text around illustrations, and I'll show you directly how that influences mine, but also in my mind was the work of Posy Simmons, the various strips she did for The Guardian. I mean, what a great opportunity to have a weekly strip in a Sunday newspaper. You know, it virtually doesn't exist anymore, certainly not in this country. But I liked the fact that she could have bodies of text as well as well-observed comics. She's a great cartoonist. And yeah, early doors, I was you know, trying to have that kind of text and image mix. Most of the feedback I get off comic people is too much text. But I'm trying to reach a wider audience where they still need to introduce into comics and cartoons. So it's kind of easing them in with the mix. And you can telescope some of the action a bit like that. Other influences here. So you see experimentation from early examples where the panel borders, you know, are not made up of ruled lines or anything. So here it's vegetation. And here again, a different strip from a different time. the branch kind of growing around that central cameo image. But here I've used that backstory. Again, a kind of packed with dialogue, which is not normal for this book actually, but packed with dialogue because somebody's telling their backstory, the kind of antagonist of the story. And there's 3 different time zones going on here. When she's young, and on the crutches, actually, I've used the crutches in the page design there as well. But the top right panel of the first page, and then the bottom right panel of the second page, it's kind of the leaves are grown, and by the time she's an old crone in the third appearance of the cameo panels there, it's that twisted, knotted branches. But that's directly, I got that idea from these earlier strips, and inventive use of paneling there. And then, yeah, more obvious things like Randolph Caldecott and that kind of aesthetic. You know, the stuff that Welly would have been reading at the time, at that age. I'm sneaking stuff like that in as well for when there's firelight sails around the campfire. So I'm using the illustrated capitals there, illuminated capitals, I think they're called. And, you know, a little bit of the, even including the off-register, a little bit of Randolph Caldecott kind of styly start the story. And then the other thing I was advised was include some process. So here's just a page building up as they go. So I do one pass. So it's analog. It's a mixture of pencils, analog, that I then scan into the computer. Then I go back to the pencils and do a second pass, which is basically the tone work and the heavier outlines. And I scan that again and put those two together as layered up. And that gives you a kind of visual jangle. Keeps them alive and moving, and makes it a little bit more 3D, which I'm after. And 2 different grades of brown that I got with there, and then also using blue within a limited palette. So just overdrawing in layers, but all pencil work basically. And then next comes the digital. So I'm applying the color fields, keeping them fairly simple, but they're in digital. Some spot color with the yellow there. And yeah, you know, that's the page altogether with lettering, which is digital as well. I think if I had infinite time, I would want to hand letter. I always have hand lettered. But to be honest, especially with this having to work, hopefully for foreign editions as well in the future, it's easier for me to just do it digitally and have it on another layer. But I did do quite a lot of work and experimentation trying to find the right fonts for it. I'm not sure how I'm doing for time, but I hope I haven't rushed it too much. Launch event, 2 of them actually here. One was at the Cartoon Museum when it was my copies from the Kickstarter that I was launching. And then only a couple of weeks ago at Gosh, launching it, and dressed as the Ringmaster when I could still fit in that outfit, just about, but I couldn't by the time of the Gosh launch, it being winter, and bears put on weight in the winter. And then, yeah, everybody was handed out comedy moustaches for the Ringmaster effect. So that was a fun couple of evenings. Very glad to have been made for this month of March. Page 45 in Nottingham have declared it Comic Book of the Month, which is really nice. Nice bit of support. A lot of those photos I've shown you were photos they took. I just sampled them. And then also Bobby Joseph has got me central there very nicely in his graphic novelist for libraries. So hopefully every library in the country might be aware of it too. It's going to take quite a big push to get it out there, but I've got allies, so that's kind of nice. Yeah, and I'm currently working on book 2, different setting, some different technique, quite radically different technique, but building on the story and the themes. And I hope to have that out in about a year, well, year and a half's time, maybe. And that's it. Tip of the hat.